listening to the Art of Homeschooling podcast, where we help parents cultivate creativity and connection at home. I'm your host, Jean Miller, and here on this podcast, you'll find stories and inspiration to bring you the confidence you need to make homeschooling work for your family. Let's begin. As I record this episode, it's almost the winter solstice for those of us here in the Northern Hemisphere, the longest night and the shortest day of the year. I just love the quiet, reflective quality of this time of the year. Winter solstice is a great moment for taking a little quiet time to yourself, reflecting back on the year that has passed before looking ahead to what's to come. That's really what reflecting gives us, an opportunity to look back in order to look forward, a time to reflect and celebrate before moving on. It's kind of like a still point. I know some of us avoid reflecting, right? Or just don't make time for it. I was in that camp for many years, always just moving on to the next thing. But when we take time for thoughtfully reflecting, we discover so many beautiful ahas that can help us move forward with a little more ease, a little more confidence and self-compassion. We all have a tendency to go, go, go. And in doing so, most of us experience what are known as micro anxieties all day long. Those little niggling thoughts and questions that cycle through our minds, the constant brain chatter. Things like, what am I supposed to be doing? Am I doing this right? I never seem to get to everything. What's wrong with me? Why can't my child get this yet? How many times do I need to explain this? What can I tweak to fix this? How can I make everyone happy? Reflection can help you take time to focus on how you feel and consider how homeschooling is really going without all the judgment. We get to quiet the chatter. When we reflect, it's a time to think about what went well and what was challenging. Super simple, so that you can rediscover your inspiration and hope. In the Inspired at Home community, we have a reflection guide with a whole page of reflection questions. One whole page for looking back, another whole page with questions for looking forward. And we gather at the beginning of every month as a community on Zoom, setting aside time for this reflection and sharing. It's always a beautiful gathering. And every time I find myself so touched and moved by the profound insights that emerge for our beautiful community of homeschooling parents. And so often parents will say that these reflection calls are their favorite because they have insights into what's really going on in a much more gentle and loving way. So today, I want to encourage you to set aside some time this solstice, this holiday season. Perhaps it's the beautiful week between Christmas and New Year's, but set aside some time for reflecting. And here are a few questions that you might consider. Questions that are included in our reflections guide that I mentioned. They're so simple, and yet I promise you, if you take the time to stop and consider each one, you'll find a renewed sense of peace. Bonus points if you write down your answers. Here are a few questions for looking back. What went well in the last week, month, or season? What challenges have we experienced? And then name 3 things that you're grateful for. And now here are just a few questions to consider looking forward. What do I sense my children need in the coming week, month, or season? What could I simplify in our homeschooling? You could even do a little ritual this time of year. Write down the challenges and what you want to let go of, and then burn that piece of paper. Then you could write down what you hope for and want to invite into your homeschool life and clip it to your planner or post it on the refrigerator or keep it somewhere where you will get to see it regularly. Whatever you choose to do, I hope this has encouraged you to embrace the opportunity for reflection, quiet, warmth, and connecting with loved ones. Let go of what is passing away so you can anticipate and embrace what is coming next. Need a little more convincing to spend time reflecting? Recently, I gathered a few comments from Inspired at Home members who participated in our reflections call. And here are a few quotes from them. What I love about reflecting is it gives me the space to see all the learning that has taken place and allows me to visualize the future more clearly and have more intentionality. I've come to love these reflections calls because they help me stop and reflect instead of tinkering all day with everything. I believe if you want something to happen, it helps to write it down. So I come to these reflections calls to make my ideas more concrete and more specific, to zoom in and focus on just one thing at a time. Reflection calls help me look back and realize how much we actually got done. The reflection calls have helped me clarify so much of what happened in our homeschooling days and how to move forward. They help strengthen me as a teacher and a mother. These calls give me permission to feel proud of myself. And when you reflect in a group, it's even better. It makes it easier to loosen my grip on things and allow, and makes it easier to have compassion for whatever we're going through. When I reflect, I feel a sense of awe for what my children are doing. If I didn't reflect on how they're doing, I would miss it. And here's the last quote. It's like when I walk into my kids' room and see the dirty laundry everywhere. It's taking over. Reflecting is an opportunity to gather up all the dirty laundry so I can see the wonderful things again. Oh, profound insights and changes indeed. I hope you now feel encouraged to set aside some time for reflecting. And if you want to join our warm and welcoming community of homeschoolers so you can reflect in a group, check out Inspired at Home, where we have these group coaching calls every month, plus a whole library with a treasure trove of masterclasses to give you guidance in your homeschooling. You'll find all the details at artofhomeschooling.com/inspired at home. And if you want to see the questions I suggested that I mentioned in this episode, questions for reflecting, head on over to the show notes for this episode, which you'll find at artofhomeschooling.com/episode 163. Most of all, please remember to be gentle with your beautiful, heart-centered self, because our world needs you. That's all for today, my friend. But here's what I want you to remember. Rather than perfection, let's focus on connection. Thanks so much for listening, and I'll see you on the next episode of the Art of Homeschooling podcast.